We have always known that the University of Arkansas's economic impact on the state is considerable, but now we have very accurate data to verify and quantify those claims. This study, we believe, will greatly enhance our ability to state the case for how important the University of Arkansas is to the people of Arkansas. Joining me today is Kathy Deck, who is the director of the Center for Business and Economic Research in the Sam M. Walton College of Business.
Why do universities commission economic impact studies? Well, there are a wide variety of reasons, as you may imagine. First of all, it is very important for decision makers and university constituents to be aware of the university's contributions to the state and regional economy. Higher education is actually an industry, right? Just like manufacturing, just like healthcare, just like all of the other industries in the state, the university is a major employer. It has a significant payroll. It provides a basis of economic growth. And so this study is an attempt to give a real number, a number that we can look at and count on to the university's economic impact so that it can take its place among the other great industries in the state. But it's important to understand that economic impact is the measurement of change in an economy from the activities associated with an economic actor. In particular, when we talk about economic impact, there are three variables that we really like to take account of. That is overall economic impact, which we call GDP at the national and international level. Employment effects, so we want to talk about jobs and how many jobs does the university create. And then we also want to talk about tax revenues and what is created and given back to the state and to localities because of the operations of the University of Arkansas. We talk about three different kinds of impacts. First of all, we talk about the accounting impact, and that accounting impact is the direct impact. Indirect impact, for those of you who don't know, are those supply chain kind of impacts. Induced impacts are personal impacts. So once you have added up indirect and induced impacts, you know what you get? The famous economic multiplier. And the famous economic multiplier is the number of times that a dollar spent by the university works its way through the economy. What is the economic impact of the University of Arkansas? $725 million. And when you compare that $725.4 million with the direct expenditures of $393.5 million, you get an economic multiplier. And that economic multiplier is 1.8. And I am standing here today to tell you that 1.8 is a very respectable multiplier. The university obviously receives revenues from a wide variety of sources. One of the most visible, of course, is the state appropriation. And the state appropriation that we looked at from 2008 was $199.7 million. For every dollar the state invests in the University of Arkansas, the University of Arkansas generates $3.64 in economic activity for the state. As we delved deep into the university, we tried to classify the operations of the university and the economic impacts into three major categories. The first is how the university serves as a source of human capital development. There's no other factor that is more highly correlated with economic success than the degree of educational attainment and the skills of the labor force. And when you look at the depth of programs that are across the university, there are 220 programs in 9 colleges. The University of Arkansas has awarded over 148,000 degrees. In fact, there are 60,245 alumni currently living in the state of Arkansas right now from the University of Arkansas. Folks who have higher educational attainment are healthier. They're more productive. They're more likely to participate in the labor force. They're more environmentally aware. They're far less likely to be in poverty. Their children are far less likely to be in poverty. They are far less likely to commit a crime. Consider the benefits. Try to add up what this means to a society in terms of educational attainment. The second major category of economic impact, and that impact is that the university fosters the knowledge economy in Arkansas. Consider that the number of science and engineering graduate students in the state has doubled in the past decade. More than 2,800 are now in the state. Most folks don't consider Arkansas a high technology state, but consider that 1 in every 12 workers in our state is in a high technology field. This is only possible because of the research and development that is happening at the University of Arkansas. The university spent over $115 million on such research and brought in more than $30 million of federal research dollars. The University of Arkansas has generated 487 invention disclosures, 75 issued patents, and has 47 patents pending. There are more than 183 folks employed right here at the Arkansas Research and Technology Park in more than 29 organizations. And just in the last year, there were over $13 million in revenues generated by those companies. The third major impact that we talked about was the sustainable economic base for growth in the state and local economies. Consider that the students, faculty, and staff at the university represent more than 1 in every 5 people in Fayetteville. Of the university's extensive expenditures, more than $246 million were in payroll, and $56.9 million are spent in goods and services in Northwest Arkansas. In terms of direct employment, there are almost 4,000 faculty and staff at the University of Arkansas right now, paying income taxes, sales taxes, property taxes to the states, the counties, and the cities. Over $8.4 million go back to the state in income taxes, and $5.7 million go back to the state in sales taxes. 60,245 people have had their human capital improved at the University of Arkansas and are now living in the state. Let me give you some numbers here. 60,245 people represent about 2.1% of the state's population, but those 2.1% of the state's population account for 4.9% of the state's income. Their income is $2.2 billion with a B dollars annually. And we can attribute $1.2 billion out of that $2.2 billion directly to their time at the University of Arkansas, the wages that were associated with them obtaining higher education. We estimated athletic-related expenditures based on the experiences of other SEC schools. We examined what prospective students spend on their visits to campus. We looked at camp and conference participants and their spending in the local community. And all of this adds up to more than $128 million that is spent in Northwest Arkansas every year just because this is where the University of Arkansas is located. Where the University of Arkansas students spend $173.7 million in Northwest Arkansas, not including tuition, not including anything related with the university, and consider that they return about $6.9 million in state sales tax. This presentation has included the highlights of a 106-page, 9-month study. More details are available at the website, very easy to remember, economicimpact.uark.edu. The full study is posted there. I think this study fulfills its goal of providing a quantitative look at a very complex institution and placing the effects among the other economic activities in the state. At $725 million a year in operational impact, the University of Arkansas has a significant and stabilizing impact on the state and region. Thank you very much.